So this week's episode was actually pretty dope. Granted, last week we had the Shelfie backstory, kind of what was going on during the first season, while after the blip happened, or whatever you want to call it, where she was and how everything's going. Now this week, we finally get to catch up with our nice, beautiful, depressed Rudis and see what's kind of going on with him right now and where this adventure is taking him and where we can expect to go from here. So it starts off with Rudis kind of just riding in the back of this wagon. We don't really know much as an anime viewer. And there's three other men up front kind of just gambling away. And then we see two other characters. One is Sarah and one is Suzanne. We don't get explained exactly about Sarah in the anime. However, pretty much the gist of it from the light novels is that her parents have died, and you could kind of blame it on the Grey Rat family, which already gives her, this hate for royalty and everything else. So that's right off the bat why Sarah does not like Rudis. And Suzanne and Sarah are just kind of questioning him, and Rudis has been kind of sighing and crying the whole time. Not really crying, just mostly sighing. And so she's like, what are you doing? What do you plan on doing? You don't look like a bodyguard or anything. And he just kind of, waves it off. And Sarah's pissed about it, and she's just like yelling at poor Rudis. And he finally gets to, telling everybody, he's looking for his mom. It was, a part of the whole boom shebang, because at this point in time, Iris is somewhere, just training. Rakshi, we know, is alive, adventuring, looking for mom, poor Zenith. And so that leaves, Shelfie. But at this point in time, especially after his encounter with Paul and his sisters, he wants to find his mom. His mom deserves it, and that's all there is to it. So Suzanne pretty much tells Rudis, you never really been up here before. It's pretty whack. Everybody's, there's a lot of poor people. And, if you need some help, I'm willing to help you, but just make sure you're listening. So we kind of get to the next day, and we arrive, and the whole Counter Arrow party is there, which is Suzanne, Sarah, Mimir, Timothy, and that whole gang. Rudis splits off, and he's looking for a place to stay for a month, which makes sense, because he's going to search around for his mom, make some cash so he can, stay somewhere else, because he pretty much spent most of his money on this. And he goes back to his room, and he's kind of just sitting there with Eris's hair that she ended up cutting off after she left. And it's definitely something that you can understand. This is called the ED arc, for instance. He's depressed. He thinks it's his fault that she's left, and he doesn't know what to do. So he goes to the Adventure Guild the next day, and everybody's, pointing and gawking and staring, pretty much what they do at every single Adventure Guild. And he's like, could you help me officially disband my party? Because obviously Iris is gone, and our boy, Rigid, is also gone. He's doing his own thing for now. We'll get to him later on. Definitely not this season, but we'll get to him. And so he disbands the party and he pretty much looks at the board for jobs, and he finds this job to tack on these bears. And she pretty much tells him, I don't know if that's something you should do by yourself, not necessarily knowing Rudis. And to be fair, he should have a party just in case. However, he really wants to take this job, and he's having this huge anxiety attack, and he reaches into his pouch. Now, at this point in time, we don't know what's in the pouch, but it's obvious that it's an anxiety reducer. And so right after that, we have our girl, Suzanne, kind of like, I kind of overheard what the heck's going on. Maybe we should work on this together and go from there, And she's like, you think so too, right, Sarah? And Sarah's just, blah, 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 Miss Grumpy face over here. And a lot of the time, Rudis does mention this in this episode of how much she reminds him of Eris, which is, fair enough to say because they're both grumpy, angry types of people, but they have their good sides, and I can understand the comparison. But right after that, they pretty much decide that they're going to meet in the morning and they're going to take on this quest. And in this party, you have a healer, a sorcerer, I would say a fighter, an archer, and then another fighter. So, you got 2 front lines, some back lines, and a mid-ground line. And obviously we have Rudis on this here. And so right after that, we can see Rudis meeting in the morning, and he's a little early, grabbing whatever's in his pouch again. And they all show up, and, Suzanne's like, oh, yeah, you're early. And, of course, Rudis can't sleep because his mind's just so full of everything going on right now, and he's just blaming himself for it. So she goes to shake his hand, and, of course, he puts his hand out, but then he just kind of thinks to himself and puts his hand back down, and Suzanne just kind of brushes it off, and we start the journey. So we come to find out that Suzanne is not the leader of Counter Arrow. She's the co-leader with Timothy. And Timothy is just kind of like average wizard, nothing too crazy. And he tells Rudis, don't mind Sarah. She's a good person, and we're gonna do this. But we come to find out with Rudis that he was trying to find why she was so, interested in this besides helping him out. And we come to find out that, Suzanne's trying to teach Sarah a lesson that she can't exactly be picky all the time because there's not that many people out here and you won't have that option anymore. And Rudis just kind of accepts it, doesn't really care. He's going to get money and he's going to finish the job, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So we get to the fire to prepare for this attack because the best time to attack these things are at night because it dulls down their senses. And Rudis mentions that in the episode. So it is decided by Suzanne that as soon as they find them, he's going to delay them at long range. And obviously the other sorcerer, Timothy's going to be doing that as well until they get closer. And then Sarah's going to come in with the archery and the other boys are going to fight. And then we've got, our other boy, Mimir, the healer, that's just going to heal when everything needs healed. So Rudis is kind of questioning, he's like, shouldn't I have something more to do than just kind of support? Like, I can do more. And Sarah's like, can I get shot in the back? Don't whine. This isn't your group. Stay out of it. So Rudis just, kind of accepts it and ends that conversation pretty fast. Even though he's just trying to help more, especially with his skill levels. Obviously, they don't know, and he doesn't know their skill levels. So it's kind of a fair, assessment. So after that, Timothy's apologizing, for Sarah yet again. And right after that, the fight's kind of beginning. We see these bears, and they look pretty BA. And Timothy's throwing these fireballs at it, and Rudis is covering them in mud to slow them down and blind them a little bit. And things seem to be going decently well until about a minute or two later when they all come rushing in. And at first they think they're black bears because they're all covered in mud from Rudis' spell. However, they are not. They're just the same bears they were hunting down. And they are all rushing towards them. And Rudis is getting to this point now where his mental health is just not good and blaming himself for all of this. He's got nobody around. Eris is gone and he's sick of it. He just wants to end it right now. And before any of that can even happen, Suzanne comes and blocks him off and tells him to run for it. And Rudis clearly doesn't run for it, but we get to see all of this party kind of tackling these bears, struggling very much. And even Suzanne takes a nice blow, slides right down with a greatsword falling right towards her face and gets healed up. And while that's all happening, we get this nice 360-esque rotation shot of a fight. And we see all of them fighting and Suzanne kind of flipping around, shooting arrows. And it looks fantastic. I don't care what people are saying. Sure, it's not comparable to Season 1 Core 1, but it is on par with Season 2 Core 2. And the story it's always great. This arc is definitely not the best arc of the series, in my opinion. But it is great, and I honestly don't see why people are complaining. They're doing a pretty damn good job. But after that, you know, obviously Suzanne's pretty busted up. Sarah's a little busted up. But even all of these bears they have killed, there's 9 more approaching, and they don't know what to do. So Rudis just kind of finally gets out of this depressive state at the moment and realizes, this is really stupid. What am I doing? I need to do this. This is what fighting in a party is like. I gotta find people. I've been through worse. And so he tells me he's gonna take care of it. And we get to see this amazingly wicked, huge fireball that I don't know if it's, I can't remember if it's king class, but I do know it is a pretty decent level class magic with his staff. And it looks phenomenal. He takes out all 9 of them, one shot. And pretty much right after that, we skip to them all, you know, skinning the pelts and getting the proof of the task being done. And Rudis walks up to Suzanne pretty much right after that and thanks her for, you know, bringing him along, because it really helped him move forward and be able to do what he needs to do. Not necessarily, you know, 100% over it, but he's getting a little better. And so after that, Sarah finally walks up to Rudis and apologizes to him, realizing that, you know, she thought he was a lot worse than he was, and he saved their lives and she owes him. And it's a really good, nice little twist and development into the story, because obviously with Iris, it took a lot longer. But with Sarah, you know, even with the Grey Rat name and the royalty thing, even though Rudis isn't really part of that branch, it means a lot. So after that, they go back to the Avengers Guild, and you know, all the Avengers are criticizing them, you know, saying it's not much of a job, you know, it wasn't that hard, oh my gosh. And right after that, we realize that Suzanne pretty much nods to Timothy and tells everybody at the bar, Timothy does, that they're going to buy 1 round for everybody because this is their first quest being done to the guild. And everybody cheers and gets excited because we know booze changed the plot. Booze always make everything better, apparently. And Suzanne pretty much introduces them as, you know, Counter Arrow and Rudis. And everybody's just cheering on for Rudis, and Rudis feels good about it. You know, he's finally getting these quests done. He's doing amazing. And after all that hype and excitement, we get back to Rudis's room. And, you know, he realized to himself that, you know, he'd forgotten about living seriously. And in his hand, we finally get to see what was in the pouch, which was the holy relic, Roxy's panties. And he doesn't even, like, you know, do anything super weird. I mean, it is kind of weird to carry around a pair of panties, but he's not sniffing them or anything like that. They're just a relic. He just worships them. You know, it's like the thing he has between that and the necklace, what's left of Roxy to him at this point in time until he sees her again. So he's really pushing himself to think about it, and he's not going to lose everything. He's had it worse. You know, he's thinking back to the times when Roxy took him out and how that broke that barrier for him and how much she's done for him, and he needs to change that. And even though everybody's far apart, he's not alone. He holds up the necklace from Roxy up to the fire, and it is a really sentimental feel moment, and it feels really good. And you know something's going to kind of change, and it gets you really, really happy for Rudis, even after that little sad, depressive moment we just had. And to end the episode, he finally throws Eris's hair into the fire and turns a new leaf for now. Which, you know, as we know as a viewer, it was a total mistake. And as a reader, and not to spoil like really anything, she's not gone. She's gonna come back. But that's pretty much this episode until next Sunday. It was a damn solid episode in the beginner, because we're at that point now where we've, you know, that whole huge arc's coming relatively, you know, soon. Granted, we got the announcement that after this core, we're gonna have to wait 6 months till April to get the second core out. But I think it's gonna be worth it with the animation and, you know, just making sure everything's polished and done right. That's my opinion on it, and I'm very happy they're, you know, not happy they're doing it, but at the same time happy they are, you know, taking their time to do that. But with that being said and out of the way, great episode, loved it, can't wait till next Sunday. And if you enjoyed this video or you want to see even more, leave a thumbs up. It means a lot to me. And if you're feeling very generous, hit that subscribe button. I try to upload, you know, at least 2 to 3 times a week, episode reviews, and kind of working on right now a different type of video that I haven't really done before. So yeah, with that being all the way again, thank you very much. This has been Squids, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.